Hey family, welcome to the fifth quarter. I'm Marty McNair, the founder of the Jordan McNair Foundation.
And I'm Tonya House, Jordan's mom and co-founder of the Jordan McNair Foundation. We're glad you're here.
This is a series for parents raising student athletes, and any parent that's preparing their child for the next level of life. Tonight's session, and it's free legal access, POA, HIPAA, and FERPA in plain language. And family, let me tell you right out the gate, we are not giving any legal advice or financial advice. We're just giving parent advice. So we want to open up the night with something personal, right? And one of the reason that this is so near and dear to our hearts is, and I want to ask Tonya a question. So Tonya, you remember when Jordan was in the hospital and we finally got legal representation, and you remember the very first question that Malcolm, our attorney, asked us?
Yep. Do we have a POA?
Right. And what was your thoughts when you said that? Because I remember. What do you think?
I was like, no, that's my child. What I need a POA for?
Jordan was still calling home on Friday nights, right?
Asking
to go out.
Yeah.
Right.
He was call, and it blew my mind. I looked at the phone. I said, okay, let me say this. And I just gave him some advice, be careful, whatever. But yeah, he was still calling home. That asked, hey, can I go this place or can I go that place? I'm like, sure, be careful.
Right. I don't think that we both saw the magnitude of a POA, because most of the time when we think about a power of attorney, you always think about something older, right? Or a parent, or a senior or something like that. We never really think to put one in place when it comes to our 18 or 19-year-old children, right? But before we dive in, this is a parent education from a lived experience. We're not attorneys. We're not giving legal advice to family, and we are not giving financial advice. We're giving you the right questions to ask, the right mindset, and the next steps to protect your family. Drop in the chat where you're watching from and what sport your child plays. So drop in the chat where you're from and what sport your child plays.
And even if you know one parent who needs this, send them this live right now, because every parent of a high school student needs to know this information.
Right. Hey, Tonya, so let me ask you this. I know we kind of went through Jordan's whole process together in regards to him being in the recruitment process, right? And I know that we had really kind of like defined our roles where, I was the one that was, I was doing the groundwork. So, I was the one taking them to, the college visits and the sports clinics and stuff. And I know you took them on a couple college visits, but when it came to the whole process, right, of filling out the paperwork, because I remember you did all of that. Like, what was one of the things that you kind of wish that you had throughout this process when we were going through this at the time?
More information,
Right.
more of an understanding of what I was reading, and the things that I let them have, not knowing. So yeah, I just wish I had more information about the entire process.
Right. I mean, did you have anybody that you could kind of defer to in regards to say, hey, this is what this is, or this is what this is, or you were pretty much left up to your own level of understanding with this?
Yes, I was left up to my own understanding. Didn't have anybody to call, didn't know who to call.
Right.
So yeah, so I wish I would have known that information before, then we wouldn't be in this situation, I believe. So
Got it. What you mean by we wouldn't have been in this situation?
as far as what to look for, things that don't look right, and just reminding Jordan, speak up for yourself, say something. And if if nothing changes, come to us and we can see what we can do. But I just think if I was educated more, I can't really say, but I would have a better understanding.
Right. Hey Tonya, so look, let me say this before we get too in depth in tonight's conversation, which is strictly about financial forms and stuff like that, right? Um, I always say that Jordan was probably about 5 years too late, right? So he would have been class of no, Jordan might have got a little NIL money, you think?
Yeah,
Because
because I think it came in the next year. The next,
no, I
yeah,
think it came in
2 years.
21.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah,
Right. When
right.
we first got the law passed. And family, let me tell y'all this. So in week one, we got a checklist for you. The link is in the description, and it's actually this QR code at the top of the screen, right? But before I go off into that, you can download that and follow along, and even as you can see, like the checklist is your do this for this week, right? A simple plan, not to overwhelm you or anything. But let me tell everybody this, right? How we even got here tonight and the reason why I wrote the fifth quarter. All right. So if y'all can see that, that was the fifth quarter. And our whole purpose was really to educate parents to how do you get your child prepared for collegiate athletics, right? How do you prepare them mentally? How do you prepare them financially? How do you prepare them from a speak up culture? How do you prepare them to make good decisions? How do you prepare them all the way around the board for, or most importantly, what it does is the fifth quarter gives you an in the event of mindset. But I just think that even in our process, when we went through this whole thing with Jordan, and Tonya, we were in this together. But is it anything that you, in hindsight, think that you should have taught Jordan before he left home, or you were pretty comfortable with his social skills or his independent skills or whatever?
I was comfortable with his social skills and his independent skills. However, I think I didn't teach him how to recognize what's not normal, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if it looked funny, it smelled funny,
Right,
then it's
right.
you need to
Yeah,
say something. You know what I mean? So I think that's what it is. And I think with that, I just felt as though that may have fell in with a little common sense of something. So I think I just should have made him more aware. But
right,
had I been aware of what was going on, I would have made sure pay attention. Pay
right,
attention.
right.
So
To what, Tanya?
to something that don't look right. If it's
Yeah,
not, yeah, if it look fun, like I said, if it look funny, smell funny, then is
right, right. Yeah, I think that I agree with you when it comes to that. Like, we really didn't emphasize a speak up or self advocacy
mhm,
mindset with him. Like, of course, I'd always taught him to, you know, defend himself or, advocate amongst himself with his peers. However, we never really kind of emphasized with coaches, and it was more so kind of like we kind of created I think with Jordan, we created more of a coachable type guy, where coach was always right. Coach say jump off that cliff or run through that brick wall. You don't question it, you just do it. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of really beat me up along the process, where it was like, man, I wish I would have just kind of prepared him more. You know what I mean? Like to say, like you said, if it don't smell right, taste right, or look right, say something, or protect yourself in regards to that, right? But back to our family, back to the reason that I wrote the fifth quarter. And here we go again. So make sure you get your copy. And the main thing the reason that I wrote this is because we wanted to educate parents on this process. And, really, Tanya, I know you would agree that the recruitment process looks totally different than it did when Jordan was being recruited, right?
yes, yes.
You
These
know,
these kids now going in on six figures or
right.
more.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And to be honest, if Jordan had graduated around this
Oh, yeah.
these times,
Yeah.
he wouldn't chose the school he chose. I'm telling you.
Right.
He
Exactly.
wouldn't. He wouldn't. It wouldn't have been enough money.
Right, exactly, exactly. Italian, but I think that we would be in the same position where we would probably be as a viewer on this call ourselves, right? You know what I mean? Trying to figure out, what is it these two parents are talking about in the sense? How can we get educated, or you got to realize you didn't have a guide like the fifth quarter out there when we were coming through the process as well, right? So let me say this, family. Most parents, we all doing our best, right? Let's call it what it is. But a lot of everyone that's in the process now, you're not really given the information they actually need to protect their child once they leave home, not just on the field, but off the field as well. So keep in mind, when your child turns 18, the rules change. Nobody sits you down, right? Except for us, right? It's going to sit you down and literally, nobody sits you down and explains. So with that, as Tonya just said, parents just kind of assume. And I'm gonna tell you, when something happens, we'll just kind of call and handle it in a sense. And our goal really is to create a in the event of mindset. But the truth is, love doesn't automatically equal access. So the fifth quarter is literally a book that I wish every parent had before their child takes that next step. And whether it's college athletics, recruiting, camps, or just becoming an adult, it's just about preparing families for real life and legal access when minutes matter. So this is what you'll walk away with this evening, right? What changes when your child turns 18? What HIPAA, FERPA, and POA mean in plain language? How to add financial protection for NIL and profit sharing opportunities. But the main thing is we're not getting into deep access with that. That's at another week of our education sessions where we'll talk about financial literacy, NIL, protecting your brand, because nowadays this is a business and you have to protect your business. Your child is a business now. I remember, Tonya, you remember we used to say that Jordan was never the goose that laid the golden egg. So in other words, you do okay, I do okay. So whether he made it to the next level or not, yeah, we want to support him. But at the end of the day, it wasn't a main priority for him to play at a professional level. If he wanted to, that was great. But he didn't have to. In other words, it wasn't like he was, changing the quality of our life. That wasn't what it was already. So, but now, Tonya, the crazy thing about it is every kid that's walking into a Division I school is getting paid. So now the kid is the golden goose.
Absolutely.
Nowadays. So now the kid, you got to build a brand, and it's a business scenario now around it. And the goal of Night, family, is how do you protect that, right? So we'll tell you what exact steps to take this week and a checklist that you can use immediately. So let's get into it. Parents, here's the truth. When your child is under 18, you're automatically involved. Schools talk to you, doctors talk to you, coaches they talk to you. But at 18, your child becomes a legal adult, flat out. They're emancipated, right? So anybody don't know what emancipated means, that means they are legally an adult. So Tonya, just imagine if Jordan had went to what if we had chose Alabama or Auburn or all them schools down south? This would have been even more of a nightmare. Can you imagine?
Right. Trying to get there, and
right, trying to get there. Luckily, we was only 45 minutes down the highway versus, we a plane ride away or a 12-hour car ride away. That would have been, even nightmares type situation in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. So back to what I was saying, family, when your child turns 18, all these people can talk to you, all these different things, right? So now they ain't got to talk to you now. And the main thing now is, you're talking to coaches and all that in the recruitment process, right? But we got to learn how to ask the right questions. And a lot of times, people expect you to come in prepared, and that's just the sad part about it, or that's just the reality of the recruitment process. Yeah, the parent is involved, but what's the likelihood of you seeing that coach that was really realistically recruiting your child on a consistent basis, coming to your house, reaching out to the kid, reaching out to your child or your son or your daughter, and after they sign or after you commit, what's the likelihood of you seeing them again?
Right. You had all access during the entire recruitment process, going to football building, going that little lunchroom, and but after they sign, it's like, oh, you got to sit up there. You can.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So right. They set it up nice for you.
Hey, what you say? You got to sit up there, right? That's it. Yeah, for real. To be honest,
right.
what's the what's the likelihood of you sharing the same airspace as that coach that was sitting at the kitchen table in your living room, telling you they're going to make a man or a woman out of your kid or your son or your daughter? What's the likelihood? So the main thing is, I think that when you do have them, you have to ask all of the right questions. You got to ask the questions that matter, that really going to put you at ease. Don't be like us. You remember, Tonya, I asked 2 questions. What were they? Why the coaches from Maryland were sitting at your kitchen table, we was eating spaghetti that night. What, you remember the 2 questions I asked?
Yes, one was something about mental
Mental health support.
mental health and substance abuse.
Yep. What was the other one, Tonya?
Wait a minute, I'm trying to think. Mental health. Oh, and forever. Oh man, I know what it is. It's lifetime scholarship.
I swear, sometime, man, was me and you in the same room sometime?
It's menopause, Marty. It's menopause.
It's menopause. Okay, all right, okay. I respect that. Okay, touche. You get a pass for that, right? Yeah, menopause. I understand. Hey, family, let me tell y'all, this is real conversations, man. You know what I mean? Like, we here with you in it. I asked, really, could Jordan get some playing time? That was it. I didn't think to ask in the event of, I didn't ask any event of questions. And that's really our main goal, right? So the main thing is, when they turn 18, they're emancipated. It's not that you don't love them any less or they don't love you any less, but legally, we have to put the right protections in place, right? So, keep in mind, when you look at access, right, you look at access to access can change in 4 areas, right? And the 4 areas that it can change is medical, school, decision making, and financial access, especially now with NIL and new profit sharing opportunities.
And this is about protection, not pressure, not how to get paid, but how to stay safe when money shows up. So let's make this practical. If your child is away at school and something happens, you don't want to be learning these words while you're panicking. If your child gets injured and you're trying to get updates, you don't want to hit a wall. If your child is overwhelmed, stressed, or struggling, you don't want delays or confusion. This is one of those quiet protections that every family deserves, and also a moment to teach your child something bigger. When you plan ahead, you protect the family. We don't wait for a crisis.
All right, cool. So the things that we'll cover are when we look at, let's define the terms, without legal talk. HIPAA is medical privacy, right? And I'm sure a lot of us know what HIPAA is when we go to the doctor's office, what they can say, what they can't say. But guess what? Imagine your child being in a situation and they ain't got to share nothing with you. That's a tough situation to be in. While Jordan was in the hospital, you say we dealt with something like that, right? Wasn't it something with the some medication or something?
Yes. Oh yeah. So had Jordan lived, he had to have this medication. I had to pick it up from the pharmacy. So I went to the pharmacy to get it, but they said I couldn't get it because he's he didn't sign anything for me to get anything medical about him at all. So I'm standing there, I was like, well, he's still on my insurance, and that's my prescription card. Why can't I get named there? It's just, and that's why the POA is so important. So
Right.
important. So something like that, if your child can't speak for themselves, but you be able to make medical decisions for him or her.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's why your HIPAA is so important, family.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to FERPA education, right? FERPA is is education privacy. It protects school records so colleges can limit what they share about grades, discipline, and records without permission from the student, right? Family, do not take this stuff for granted, because I'm going to tell you, we all know somebody, some friends, when they sent their kids away to college, unfortunately, they weren't properly prepared and the kid came back home. So if you read my read the book, The Fifth Quarter, one of the big things, one of the stories that I share real life stories from people that I've interacted with, friends of mine that I've interacted with whose kids went away to college. So let me tell you this story. One of my friends, her son went to school, I believe in Tennessee, right? And he down there, he wasn't a student athlete or not, but he went down there, and it was right around pandemic time, and they were staying off campus or something like that. Do you know this little dude came home 2 times and he had already flunked out? She didn't even know he flunked out. So her friend down in Tennessee was, kind of had my eye on him, and he saw him one day out of pocket or out of class when he should have been in class. This little dude he had flunked out. She didn't even know, and came home and went back to school again. And I don't know if it was 2 times or 1 time, but again, can you imagine that? You think everything is cool, and you get this big surprise that your kid then flunked out. And the main thing is because I'm sure it wasn't, any type of FERPA protection or anything like that in place. And I've heard this story, and I'm sure most of us have heard this story several times, right? So always remember FERPA, and we'll talk about that in our checklist and everything like that as well, right? Even when you talk about FERPA, you want to have access to them grades, right? And kids can get kind of savvy now, what they want to show you, what they can show you, but you want to kind of have full control over all these things, right? And that way, educate them so you'll be, as I always say, the more educated that we all are, the safer our kids will be, right? So now let's talk about a POA, right? And some of us know what a POA is. A power of attorney. A power of attorney, in layman's terms, it can allow a parent or trusted adult to help make decisions or handle certain matters, depending on how it's set up. And there's one more category families need to think about. That's financial access, which I'll come back to. But keep in mind, with a POA, we always usually think, with my parents. My parents are elderly; they're in their 80s. I have power of attorneys on them. But really, a medical power of attorney where I can make medical decisions, a financial power of attorney where I ain't running their financial stuff. But in the event of when they become of age where they can't do it, I can at least step in. I'm an only child, so I got to do what I got to do. I don't have access to siblings and stuff like that. So again, it's only me that can make these things or make these decisions when it comes to that. But keep in mind, they are not just for elderly or our parents. These are in place, or we can put these things in place for our student athletes or our children when they go away to college. And I think that it's more needed. A POA is more needed when your student athlete or your child leaves away from home, because the goal is anything can happen, right? We wouldn't be here if we had a mindset like that, right? We could ask the right questions and then made a realistic decision. All right. And there's one more category, as I mentioned. You talk about financial access, right? So with NIL deals, brand income, profit sharing opportunities, your child may receive money, sign agreements, and create tax responsibilities. You tell me, if somebody want to jump in the chat and you tell me that you're 18-year-old, you're 19-year-old, you're 20-year-old, you're 21-year-old, you're 22-year, and you're comfortable with them making financial decisions on their own, man, you don't need to be on this call. What you need us for. We need to be listening to your call in, because you've prepared your child extremely well. The bottom line is this: when it comes to schools, financial decisions, things like that, family, remember, these are children. We know our kids, regardless of how many points they putting up per night, how many touchdowns they running, or how many sacks they getting, or how many home runs they hitting, or all these different things. At the end of the day, an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old is still an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old mentally. Keep that in mind, regardless if they 6'7", 6'8", 7 feet. A baby is a baby. A kid is a kid with no experience. And we're going to put them in these real life-changing experiences. All right. So anybody want to chime in before we move on? Okay. All right. So, hey, family, as we move on, 3 simple moves this week. Step 1, Ask your school or college what they require. Ask the athletic department, right, what they need from you. Ask student health, ask guidance, ask compliance from a college perspective.
Step 2, put your family access plan in place, medical access, education access, emergency contacts, travel plan, and be sure to add financial protection to your plan. Who is helping review agreements? Where will income be deposited? What spending rules are in place? And what's the plan for taxes and savings?
Step 3, have the conversation with your child. Don't make it weird, make it loving. Say, I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to protect you. If something happens, I need to be able to help.
That conversation is a form of leadership and it builds trust.
Now, let's walk through that week 1 checklist together. If you haven't downloaded it, do it now. There's the link right there, the QR code in the description at the top right corner. All right. Here's the goal. By the end of this week, you'll have clarity, not perfection, but you'll have clarity. So, number 1, you'll identify your child's status, under 18, turning 18 soon, already 18, and traveling or away. Medical access plan. Number 2, who should be able to receive medical updates? Where is insurance information stored? What allergies and medications matter, right? Number 3, you need an education access plan. Who should be able to discuss records when needed? What does the school require? Who is the best point of contact? Number 4, financial protection plan, NIL/profit sharing. If money comes in, now hold on, before I do that, right? When I wrote the 5th quarter, keep in mind, profit sharing wasn't the law. We released this in 2024. In February of 2024. As of July 1st, profit sharing is the new law. So there's no more. I talked about NIL and collectives in this, but you constantly see, family, how this stuff is always updating with these laws and these different things happening all the time. So you got to stay up to date with this information. All right. So number 4, financial protection plan, NIL, and profit share. If money comes in, where does it go? Who helps your child understand agreements and obligations? What rules protect them from bad deals, fast spending, or pressure? Then you have the legal conversation starter. What questions do you want to ask a qualified professional? What documents are common in your situation? And you always want to create an emergency readiness folder, right? One place for key documents and contacts. I would suggest the digital copy, which is like a Google Drive, right? And your Google Drive, basically, you have access. So you keep a digital copy, which is a Google Drive, and a printed copy. Almost like traveling, right? Whenever I travel out the country, I always make a copy of my passport. I leave the main passport, I leave the original in the safe at the hotel, and I always carry that copy around with me just in the event of, right? And the main thing is, you want this stuff to be easy to find. So if you do nothing else this week, complete this checklist. This is how you replace anxiety with a plan. All right, so let's take a few questions from the chat now. Quick reminder, we can't give legal advice or financial advice, but we can give you the right questions and next steps. Hey, Gabby, is it possible you could put the checklist back up, please? Correct. Yeah. So what you want to do is, they need to be notarized to make them official. So the thing is, thank you, Nasika Pace. So one of the main things you want to do, you want to be very state specific. So if your child goes away to a school, say for instance in Georgia, right, you want to get a Georgia power of attorney. I don't think that a Maryland power of attorney would be applicable when it comes to that. Yes, you always want these documents notarized to make them official. Anybody else? All right. Okay, so keep in mind. Okay. Good question. You want to answer that, Tonya? You want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay. How do I bring this up without my child feeling controlled? At the end of the day, as I just mentioned, the main thing is this. We already know that if somebody gave your child $100,000, we already know it's going to be disaster. I think whenever you put large sums of monies in a young person's hand, it always turns into disaster. I still think that at the end of the day, one of the things my uncle told me about Jordan one time, when he was in high school, I had both of his ears, right? We had both of his ears. The older they get, they're going to get more friends. They're going to get more people that they think they're smarter than us, right? That's just, parenting 101 or kids 101. You're going to have to let them get some type of lived experience. I was just reading that, but they're going to get their licks in. They're going to get their experiences in life. However, the main thing is you have to, I can't even say keep a level of control, but keep that level of protection around them. Because a lot of times, keep in mind, most of these kids have more, they don't really have a lot of life experiences. Jordan never had no job. I mean, his job was going to school and playing sports, even though those are great transferable skills, later down the line. But, he didn't, he never worked nowhere or anything like that. Like I say, most of these, kids, especially most of these boys, they mama's boys anyway. You know what I mean? So they still call home like Tonya asked anyway. So I still think that, a lot of times, they just going to want you to kind of take care of everything anyway. So I just think that may be an opportunity to continue to do that, So I'm going to give y'all a prime example. So one of my good friends, his son goes to Notre Dame, right? And when I tell you he had a very lucrative NIL deal, that was just his first year. These are 1 year deals, family. 1 year, 1 season deals, 1 season deals. If they produce, guess what? They probably gonna make more money the following year, right? If they produce and they not getting paid, most of them gonna try to jump in the portal anyway to go chase some more money. So the main thing is you want to kind of always know what's going on, surround them with the proper professionals that can help you make these good decisions. But the most important thing, if you don't learn these things first, you know what I mean, before you bring somebody in, as one of my colleagues always say, when the money comes, you pause. You pause. And we'll talk about that a little later in the sessions. But the main thing is just kind of remember that when the money comes, you pause. 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 Regardless if it's more than you've seen this week or this year, your paycheck or what you brought home this year or what you'll make this year, pause. Pause. So back to what I was saying, a friend of mine, his son goes to Notre Dame, and I think his first or second year, he was 19 with a $1.5 million NIL deal. 1.5 million. And he was telling me, he said, Marty, brother, this ain't no first and 15th money. This ain't no grown-up money. This 40,000 this week, 40,000 this week, 60,000 this week. He said, this is how the money comes. And the kid had this deal prior to July 1st with the profit sharing, Tonya, right? Mm-hmm. And the crazy thing about it, they called him and say, well, hey, we want to give you the remainder of, we got to give him the remainder of the 1.5. He said the best thing besides me and my wife controlling the money, now I don't know what kind of financial protections they had in place or anything like that, but he said he's in South Bend, Indiana. Ain't for so much trouble he can get into there. But Tonya, let me back up, and I don't want to dig in deep when it comes to the financial aspect. I'd rather wait till we get to that point or get to that session. I don't know what week that is. We can look at the schedule. But Tonya, you remember how much money did Jordan have when he passed? He had like a couple thousand or something, right?
Yeah, because he wanted a new car.
Okay, so that was money he was saving.
So he would save his money. So when he passed, he had maybe about $1,800.
Yeah. I was going to sell him my car, like my father did me. Seriously, I was just like, you got to give me something towards it. But that was the plan, right?
But he held on to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But the point that I'm making, Tonya, what was their stipend back in the day from the football team? They would get like $30, $40, $50 a week, right? To eat with?
No, that stipend monthly was enough to pay the rent.
Okay.
Yeah, it paid the rent, and he had like maybe $1,000 or $1,200 left over once he paid the rent. So yeah, they was getting a nice little stipend.
So he would buy. That's when he would buy. He was buying one pair of Jordans every month, right?
Every month.
So those are the Jordans me and you still got in our closet, in my sneaker closet. But the point that I'm making is, it was a decent piece of change for a 18-year-old or a 19-year-old. Am I right?
Right,
That
back
was
then.
more than enough.
Yeah, it was, because he lived off of it. He did fine off of it.
I mean, what else are you really doing as an 18 or 19-year-old college kid? You're living on campus. You ain't got no car, right? You living on campus. You going to practice. You coming home. You're eating on campus, right? You know, Chipotle don't cost that much. Ain't like you eating at Ruth Chris or none of that type of stuff. Like, I mean, realistically, how much money does a college student athlete need?
Right. Yeah, because even he would buy one pair of sneakers a month. He would play them video games. He'd go down to the restaurants in the building.
Right.
So and he still had some money in the bank. So right.
Of course.
Right.
So really, the point that I'm making is, it really don't take all of that. So as a parent, like, just because they making it, you know what I mean, don't mean they got to spend it all. Right. Yep. Okay. All right. You looking at your notes, Tonya?
Oh.
We're gonna get you to be the best co-host eventually.
Well, everybody, thank you all for being here.
No, Tonya.
What?
To the top, Tonya.
And parents?
Yes.
No shame if you didn't know some of these things. Most families don't. That's why we're here.
Right. Okay, cool. All right, family. That's session 1. Here's the ask, right? So share with 1 or 2 parents tonight, especially parents of high school student athletes. Our goal with the 5th quarter of this session, or these sessions, really is just to kind of have like some real-time conversation. Man, like, it all starts at home. That's the main thing. It starts at home. Whatever they take out the world with them starts at home.
Yep.
I don't care what nobody say. It starts at home. If you teach them good financial management, you teach them how to take care of their mental health, you teach them to advocate for themselves, you teach them good decision making, you teach them all these different things that they're gonna go with out in life. Rest assured, it comes from home. We're the first teachers and probably the best teachers. Even if it doesn't resonate, at the end of the day, it still comes from home. So the main thing is, as we go through this session or go through these sessions, our goal really is to not really kind of turn it into more of a podcast, but rest assured, we will have subject matter experts when we need to have them. Next week is mental health. So we will have some mental health professionals as guests on the show, where they'll chime in, and we'll talk about some things. But keep in mind, the main goal, mental health is such a big topic right now. I just said mental health probably 10 times between yesterday and today to that many different people, and it's always a hot button topic. But when we talk about mental health, the main thing that we want to focus on going to next week's session is how to prepare your child to deal with their mental health. Because guess what? The resources are there. One of our guests coming in next week is a college psychologist. She's that team psychologist for a Division I school. So the NCAA makes these resources available. We just have to empower our young people, our children, to recognize when they're in some type of distress mentally, how to reach out and seek for help and seek help. So those are some of the conversations that we have. So as I mentioned, share this with 1 or 2 parents, family. If you're on a team and your child is on a team, even if you're in college, I guarantee you, probably most of the people that's listening, if you got a college student athlete that's playing a game right now, go get a POA on them today. Let that be your first piece of business in the morning, because I guarantee you, most of y'all ain't even got a POA on your child, and they probably getting big money or they playing at the next level. I can guarantee you, because most people never even hear about this, right? Who you going to learn it from? Right. But the main thing is, learn how to protect your brand, protect your child legally, financially, and medically. All right. So if you want weeks 2 through 7, plus the replay vault and tools, join the series. It's a QR code at the top right of the screen, or links in the description. Yeah, is it a cost to it? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no information is free to a certain point, but at the end of the day, this is valuable information, right? And all of this info will be replay. I mean, in the vault, so to be, you can replay the info. Number 3, if you want the full framework in your hands, grab the book, The Fifth Quarter, and once you subscribe, obviously we'll send you in your subscription service. Obviously, you'll have uh, a digital version, or depending on what level of subscription that you get, you will get a signed copy. So you'll get a signed copy from me and Tonya. All right. We'll both sign it. Did you ever sign any books before in the past?
The first one.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, so A Parent's Guide to Preparing Your Student Athlete for Life Beyond the Game. This is essential to protect you, your family, and your student athlete for life beyond the game. And rest assured, this is something that it's an easy read, but it's a guide. And like I said, the main thing is, how do we prepare our young people for what's ahead at the next level? All right. You got it, Tonya.
Well, thank you for being here. You're not alone in this. Next week, we're talking about mental health, check-ins, what to look for, what to ask, and how to keep your child grounded through pressure.
Got it. So we will see you next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Family, remember this. Thank you for joining us this evening. Please leave some comments. Tell us what you think. Man, and the goal really is to prepare families for what's ahead at the next level. You know, the more educated that we all are, the safer all of our children will be. All right. And I'm sure we'll be sharing some funny stories of our experience with Jordan. You got one before we leave? Because I'm thinking of one right now.
What you thinking of?
When Jordan did his Jordan knew when Jordan did his senior project with me, you know, so everybody, I owned a behavioral health program, so substance abuse and mental health. And Jordan came in to do a senior. He was with us for about 2 weeks, right? So he's sitting in groups and all this type of stuff. So he knew what my stance was um, uh, um, on substance use, right? You know, drinking, smoking. And Tanya, I don't know if you remember, but when Jordan, we went down Maryland, and that was his official visit. Did I ever tell you what I did? So we met you down there. And when he came to my house, I said, come to my house. And I gave him the instant read,
Right.
analysis cup, right?
Yep.
And I just gave him his instructions, you know, like, this your first time out for your official visit. You know, we're going to see what you're made of, you know, what's your decision-making process. Now, I think nowadays, you know, like, I had to use a major scare tactic. You know, I threatened to take his car back and all that type of stuff. And I threatened to take his car and all that. If, you know, I was going to give him a urinalysis cup again Tuesday. And like, that Sunday, like when we got back, I'm like, all right, I'm going to see. And he definitely, I'm like, I don't know how you're going to get to school. I don't know how you're going to get to your trainer, but there's consequences to this, right? Mm-hmm. And when Jordan passed, he was in school, and we finally figured out what the code to his phone was, which was your birthday. And I'm looking at the videos in his phone, and Tonya, when I tell you, he was at one of them parties, he got a cheap beer in his hand, and he just on a rampage. And all I could do was laugh, because he knew what my stance was, but at the end of the day, he was going to get his experiences. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And our goal as parents are to, you know, let's be realistic. These things are definitely going to happen, but our goal is to give them the tools to the point where they will think about how it affects us. And at the end of the day, they ain't going to go all the way off the deep end when it comes to this stuff. So family, thank you again for joining us.
I want to say this. Do you remember when we found out about the birthday party?
Oh yeah. Through Snapchat, right?
So yeah. Jordan, he put out there, come to the crib, having a birthday party. And when we found out, me and Marty called him. We had a three-way.
We had a group chat. Right.
Yes. And I said, let me tell you this. Go ahead and enjoy yourself, but do not have the campus police calling me.
Yeah.
Do not have college park police calling me. And don't you have any drunk sex. So yeah, that was it. And he was
Okay, so let me tell you what I told him. I had the
Okay.
father talk after I called him, and I say, "Look, bro, I said, put all your valuables under your mattress first of all. People steal, right? Because people steal." And then I said the drunk sex thing. I said, don't have drunk sex with no girl, none, right? So I think one of the times after that, I went down to pick him up. So I said, "How was the party?" And I said the same thing. Don't have campus police come to your apartment, no nothing. And I said, "How was the party?" He was like, "Yeah, it was cool." I said, did you get any action?" He was like, "No." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because you told me not to." So family, it comes from home. You know what I mean? It comes from home. And a lot of these kids are good kids, but we just got to have a realistic level of realism when it comes to them, their independence. But if we give them the right tools early on, I mean, hey, and if that was his reason for not, engaging in any, drunk sex that evening, that was perfect with me for sure. But we got to have these conversations with our children for sure. So everybody, again, thank you for joining us. And man, we look forward to making a difference and helping you transition to this safely and most importantly with peace of mind. So everybody, see y'all next week. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night.